Hey, Taurus sisters, welcome back to the podcast. This is Amy, and today I have Kayte Abaffy back on the podcast. When I have Kayte on the podcast, you guys listen a lot. I can see how many of you download and listen. And Kayte, they love you. They like to hear what you have to share with them. So today, Katie's going to talk about achieving goals as a busy mama, but also as any woman, because we're all busy and we all fill up our time with something, whether we have children or we take on other projects because we don't have little children. But Kayte is an expert in this because she's got the little kids. And just real quick, Kayte, I want to be sure everybody knows that this is Kayte Abaffy. She's married to Luke, and they put out the Way documentary. Go to thewaydoc.com, and you can get the documentary, the Christmas question documentary, and their new book called The Truth. Really, really great stuff, especially for showing others about our faith. And Kayte, I'm going to tell them right now at the beginning, Kayte also is just launching a coaching business. So go to kayteabaffy.com, and I recommend you right away sign up for her email list and take her up on her offer for a free half-hour session. You will be glad that you did. I have done this and I was glad that I did. So Kayte, just to be really sure, can you spell out your website where they can find that stuff?
Yes, it is Kayte, A, B like boy, A, F, like Frank, yes.com.
You're awesome. Okay, so go there, later, whatever, and see what she has to offer. And we'll maybe talk more about that at the end. But let's get right into it. Kayte, thanks for coming back. We just love you. And for those of you who don't know, Kayte is just so like-minded with us, and we're just really blessed that she's in our community. So Kayte, I'm going to let you just take it and talk without me interrupting much and tell us what you're learning about taking on new projects in a way that serves everybody well.
Yeah. Well, yay. Thank you so much for having me. I'm smiling hugely. You can't see me, but I'm super happy because I just think it's fun to talk to you, Amy, and by extension, all the ladies who are listening. And it was so fun last time, our conversation that we got to have. So I'm pretty psyched about this, and I've been thinking about it, and I hope it's a blessing to everybody listening. Basically, I've just been thinking about how do we as busy moms achieve goals? And like you said, not just moms, but any woman who's doing more than one thing, which is all of us. um, and how you kind of make things happen without dropping the ball on the rest of your life. Like you mentioned, Luke and I have always been very project based in our work, meaning like our jobs tend to have a start and an end date. Like this is the day the movie comes out. And so we're like working towards that. And then we pick up something else. And there's like a big learning curve for each one and different kinds of hours and demands and skills that we need to accomplish them. And then we have our family. We have two little boys at the same time. Sam is 2 and Max is 5. And they're super active and busy. And I'm just, starting to homeschool Max. And so there's lots going on. There's, like all the ladies listening, there's the work, there's family, there's, you're wanting to tend to your marriage and your Shabbat community. Maybe you're serving them in different ways. And your area where you live, there's so many elements of our lives. And so I've been talking lately, especially with this new coaching venture, to women who have something on their heart that they'd like to do or become, like a way that they would like their life or their home to feel more. And the idea of adding it in just seems really overwhelming, like there is not space. I don't know if you can identify with that, Amy, but I've definitely felt like that before when I get an idea that I, in my head and I'm like, well, where is this going to fit?
Oh, yep, I feel like that all the time. You should see my idea list.
Yeah, it can be huge, right? And the other thing is like just kind of prefacing the whole conversation is like, why do goals even matter? Like we're not just doing things for doing things' sake, but you can get into seasons of your life where you're not sure you feel growth, and that doesn't feel very good. I think when you feel or see yourself progressing and progressing in some way, whether it's in your work, in your character, in anything, a hobby or a passion project or anything like that, it feels good to grow. I think we were made to grow. And when we stay at the same, kind of in that same routine for a long time, it can feel, ungood. And so that's why this matters, because I think that God has a lot for us to grow into and to be, and he sees each one of us as we are completed and we're kind of like in progress, but there's something that he wants us to move towards. And so I'm really into helping people do that. So anyway, that's all the preamble to the Constitution. We can just get right into it, I guess.
Yeah, keep going.
Okay, so as I started to put down points of how we could achieve things when our lives are already busy, I noticed a pattern that almost everything I was writing down was something that you do prior to even beginning to attempt a goal. It was all like groundwork that would make things easier. And so the first, they kind of fall into three categories. I'll just say what they are real quick. The first is asking yourself good questions and the right questions so you can get started on the right foot. The second is clearing mental and emotional space for your new project or your undertaking. And the third thing is preparing your life systems so that you can actually add something. So I'll just go back to that first thing about asking yourself the right questions about your goal. Now, this may sound kind of silly to start with, but I think it's not a bad idea to ask yourself before you take on a new goal, do I actually want or need to do this?
That is a good question.
Yeah, because when you ask yourself that, you might realize that you want to learn a second language or start a business because it'll sound more cool than, it'll be like a cool thing to say when you're like at a party and you meet someone or whatever, or when you're at a feast and you like somebody asks what you've been up to, it'll make you feel more impressive and more interesting, but it's not actually a thing that you are passionate about. So that's really important. It's important that the goal is something that you actually have a desire to do or that you need to do, like let's say a health goal or something like that. So do I actually want to do the thing? The next question I would encourage people to ask is, what's at stake if I don't do it? And what's the win if I do the thing? I think if your why or your win isn't big enough, you're not going to disrupt your life to make it happen. We all know that when we go after something new that we haven't done before, there are going to be like challenges and hiccups and friction. And in order to actually like persist and finish the thing, you need to know kind of what's at stake, like what is going to explode, what's going to happen if this doesn't work out. And sometimes when we're like stagnating on goals, it's because it's like kind of doesn't really matter either way, like nothing's really at stake. And so you can flesh that out for yourself to help like boost your motivation, I think. And on like the flip side, what's the win? Like imagining what your life could be like when this thing is achieved can really help you get more like juice. Do you know what I mean by juice?
Motivation.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's something I've been helped by like writing that out for myself. I remember one year when Luke and I were traveling and we were kind of in a more like isolated season, I was thinking about really wanting like friendships, like more close friendships with other women who were, like-minded and similar life stage or whatever. And so I just started writing down like what's kind of at stake if I don't pursue friendships and if I just like stay in a weird little like isolated bubble. And I started writing down like when my birthday rolls around, like I'm not going to be excited to hang out with anyone, or like, I will be putting too much of a burden to talk all the time on Luke because I'm like not talking to anyone else. So he has to be my sole friend who like hears all my grievances and solves all my problems, or, just things like that. I tried to really like honestly think if I just proceed how I am now, and if I don't take time to invest in people and invest in friendships, what will my life look like in a year if I like haven't done anything? And then I also thought about what if I do, and I thought about I would go to the park and have like play dates with other moms of kids my boy's age, and we would get coffee and talk about life. And it's amazing because when I look back at that list, all that stuff has happened and God has brought all those people into my life like exactly what I was praying for. So that was actually a really cool thing to read back, like the things I thought I might be doing with my friends, and then seeing how he pulled those people out of seemingly nowhere. And now those things are happening, which is a huge blessing.
And it's important. Good job.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I know you need people, right? Here's another question that you can ask yourself as you're getting started or thinking about a new goal. In what way am I already partly there? Because sometimes it can feel like you got to go from like 0 to 100, but in reality, we have certain like, sometimes we're like part of the way there already. And that's really important because Oh man, I don't know if I told this story last time I was on the podcast about this car wash. Did I mention this?
I don't remember, but you can do it again.
All right, I'll tell it again, just in case I
Yeah, they
haven't.
won't care.
Okay. If I've already told it, you can like throw a tomato at your computer, a rotten tomato. So I read this book about how change happens and like how human behavior, like motivation, all that kind of stuff. And they talked about this car wash that was trying to drive more business. And they did an experiment where they wanted to do these little frequent flyer cards where, like punch cards, where every time you come through for a car wash, you get a punch. And then when you fill up your 10 punches on the card, you get a free one. And so it's just kind of to incentivize people to come back. And so they gave two different sets of punch cards out to their customers. To one group of customers, they gave a punch card they needed to get 8 punches. And then to the other group, they gave a punch card with 10 punches on there, but 2 had already been started for them. So it's like they both needed to get 8. And they found that the group that already had 2 started were like exponentially more likely to finish getting all the punches and come back for their free car wash. It was just like psychology. And I thought that was really fascinating because it's like they had the same goal. It's like 8 punches, but the group that saw themselves as part of the way there were much more likely to finish than the group that thought they had to go from ground zero. So before you start your goal, you can kind of sit and ask yourself, like, in what ways am I already like on the right track for this, And that can help shrink the size of it in your mind a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, add more juice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then the last thing is a little bit of like just strategy with like, let's say your goal is like, I want to get healthy, I want to lose weight, I want to get in these jeans or whatever it is. You can think about, okay, what is the friction that I'm going to run into on the way there? And then how can I set myself up to win? You can make a little statement for yourself, like, if it is 10 p.m. and, I'm really wanting ice cream, then I will have a grapefruit instead or whatever, whatever make a plan in advance for the things that are going to be hard about achieving your goal. And that can help a lot because then you won't just be totally thrown by challenges. And since you know your life and you know what comes up and you could think about times in the past where maybe you haven't finished all the way to the end of your goal, you can think about the different reasons. And this time, go at it again with a little bit of strategy and a plan for what you'll do when things come up. The first point was all those questions you can kind of ask yourself in advance to set yourself up for taking on something new. The second thing is clearing mental and emotional space for a new project. I think a lot of us make the mistake, like the perfectionism thing. Like, I should be able to add this like, I'm going to start an Etsy shop or whatever and be producing like 12 watercolors a day and listing them online and marketing them. And you add all these new to-dos and things to your plate and think that like nothing else will give or suffer or like, and I'm still going to do everything else that I'm already doing perfectly with no hiccups. And it's like so hard. It's like not fair to yourself, So part of clearing the mental and emotional space for a new project is, and I got this from a book called Finished, which is great. I recommend it to everyone. Is deciding in advance, what are like 3 or 4 things that I'm going to let myself deliberately be bad at during the season when I'm going after this goal and not feel bad about it. So it might be like, I'm going to like, trying to think of a good example. Well, here, okay, so in March and April, it was really busy around here because there were like a ton of birthdays, like mine, my son's, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law. And then it was like all the feasts, and we were planning a big Passover and stuff with our Shabbat people. And it was just so busy. And I normally take this Zumba class on Monday nights, which is super fun. But I was just feeling really run down, and I knew that I was like kind of tired and a lot was going on. And so I just like texted the lady and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I love this class, but I'm gonna drop out for like a month or 2. And then I'm gonna touch base with you at the end of this busy season. So that was kind of like my way of doing it. And it's, it's a nice thing because like you can get your stress out, you can move your body, it makes you sweat. It's great for so many reasons. But I just decided, instead of each week texting her and being like, "Oh man, like I feel so bad, but I just can't make it again." I was like, let me just give myself permission and space. Like no one's forcing me to go to Zumba.
Hmm.
Except for me, right? I'm not going to nothing bad's going to happen if I stop during this busy season to give myself more bandwidth for like the demands of family and what's going on.
I appreciate that example because it's a good thing, right? But we can't do every good thing that we want to do, which is
Yeah,
this whole thing. We have to make hard choices.
right.
And certain things, even though it's a good thing, maybe we don't need it for a season. So
Yeah,
that was a great example.
yeah. I also decided, like we talked a little bit about this last time about my smaller garden this year, and yeah, I decided to do that. I haven't been like hovering over those things that tell you like, oh, when's the last frost and when do you have to start your seeds? Like I just kind of did it when I had time, and I'm making the garden small, and because I know the summer's going to be pretty busy, pretty full, and so I can anticipate that if I'm if I have like 90 tomato plants worth of tomatoes coming in that like are all screaming to be processed before they rot, and I'm also preparing to, do X, Y, and Z, it's just going to be overwhelming. And so I kind of did my future self a favor.
Hmm.
So we're
That's
going
awesome.
small this year, yeah. Um, so and because like, I have friends who have these great gardens, and you're on Pinterest and you see the people canning all their pickled things and it looks so great. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. But then you got to remind yourself like why you're pulling back on certain things, and it's really for your sanity and so that you can be more productive. And
Hmm.
it's not forever too. It's like maybe next year I'll have a massive garden and try to like grow all the food we eat. But for this year,
Hmm.
there's not time for that. So again, the question is just, what am I going to deliberately not feel bad about, so that when that little nagging thought of like you're not having a very nice garden, or like your yard looks a little bit overgrown, I'll say, I know. It's on purpose. And this is like an example from this guy, John Acuff, who wrote the book Finished. And I just thought that was so helpful. And the second point of clearing the mental and emotional space for a new project is actually kind of weird, but not. I think it's biblical. It's fulfill your word to other people, like things that you've promised that you would do before you start your new project, because I think it'll give your heart and your mind just like the permission slip you need to take something on. I think it's scriptural to like keep our vows, right?
Yeah.
If you've told someone, I'm just thinking in my own thing, I told someone I'd look over their resume or something like that. Or if you tell someone you're going to like, oh yeah, we'll watch your kids one night so you guys can have a date night or whatever it is, make good on those promises. Like don't have lingering outstanding stuff that you've told people you're going to do or told your kids you're going to do or whatever. And then you're starting something new for yourself, because in the back of your mind you're going to be thinking like, I'm doing this, but really I'm like shirking other responsibilities.
Mm.
And just knowing those things are checked off, I think would feel really nice and set you up to start your goal in a good way.
That's a good one. And like you said, write them down so you can check them off. You don't forget them, and then yeah, you're free to go.
Yeah, yep. Okay, so that's the second thing, the clearing kind of some mental space and some emotional space for a new project. And then the last thing is a little bit more logistical, and it's just prepping your life.
Mm.
The biggest thing I've been running into as I talk to women and moms who are wanting to do something new and like big in their life is like, oh man, my current systems in my house, let's just say, are already like feeling crazy. Like the laundry and the meals and the scheduling and the clutter and taking care of everyone's health and all the extracurriculars and the homeschooling. It's already feels overwhelming. And so my advice in that is like, okay, let's get these different systems in our home dialed in so that we're not just like throwing another crazy thing into a crazy heap of circus. And there's so many great like resources online and off. I've even seen like on Torah Sisters, lady that you've, man, her name escapes me, but that you've like linked to, who talks about like simple habits she puts in place in her home to help things flow more smoothly. But yeah, I just encourage you to like look at where the what's causing the stress in your home right now, and like what is just feeling like it's taking a lot of effort or is more disorganized, and then putting some energy first into getting those things more systematized and routine so that you when you go to add something new in, it's not like just throwing like wreaking havoc on your family life or like creating a war zone. It's like mommy launched a new business, but like we've had Fruit Loops every night for 3 weeks for dinner or whatever. um and so that might look like taking a little bit of time to declutter your house, just like walking around with the trash bag they're going to take straight to Goodwill and just like removing items. It might look like clearing the next month's social calendar so there's a lot of like white space. So when you're invited to things, just being like, oh, I'm sorry, we can't do it this, we can't do it this time or whatever. And just doing that a couple times in a row so you have a little bit more bandwidth, like space wise. You might need to call in favors from like the aunts and the grandmas and the people who said they would like hang out with your kids for a few hours so you could get some work done. Like it might be the time to say, hey, do you mind doing that now?
Mm-hmm.
Or you might need to make a ton of freezer meals, and have good food ready for your family that can be really quick to put together so that, because I've been in seasons where, like, for all of our different projects, like the way and the Christmas question and my coaching business and even freelance work, I've built websites and I love doing that. So I've like made all of our sites and it's really fun and I get so into it that I'll be glued to the computer for like 12 hours, like tweaking things and optimizing and making the language as nice as I can. And it's just so fun for me. And I get in this weird zone where like I forget everything else. I
I
look
can
out,
relate.
I'm like, it's 7:15. Like, I haven't defrosted anything. Like, we have no microwave. All the meat's frozen. You get in this weird, crazy thing. So, it would help me in seasons like that if I had some quick meals like ready to go. So, so that the work or the new thing you're adding is not disrupting your family life and that it's not like causing a problem. So yeah, make some freezer meals or whatever would make it easier for you to like feed your people well while you're doing something new.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's most of what I wanted to share. Just some like tips to think about beforehand to set yourself up in a
Mhm.
nice way to get stuff done.
So that I can relate to so many things you're saying because you and I have very similar personalities. Like we're like idea
Yeah.
people, and I'm a terrible finisher. I'm a great starter. Like I love to start projects. I'm terrible at finishing them, and I just can't start so many things. And so your first point, like really analyze it. What is the fruit that's going to come of it? It's so hard sometimes to know the Father's will with these things. And I think the Father does care about the smaller things, like should I, some moms have their kids in school. Should I join the PTA? Should I coach my kids' soccer team? Should I this, that? There's so many good opportunities. And, within when we're walking with the Father, we have a lot of permissions. And so, when I talk about knowing his will, I don't always think like saying yes to coaching is the only way and saying no to coaching is the only way. We have
Right.
permissions, and either one could be his will. And some other things you really do want to know if it's from him. And there's clues about that. We could talk about that a whole nother time too.
Yeah.
Um, but so that first one to really analyze the fruit of it can help us narrow that down. And when you really have determined that taking on this new project is his will for you and your family, um, then we have to be able to tackle it. But it can be overwhelming, and we don't want to tell the Father no
Right.
because of the things you went through in the last 20 minutes. We don't want to say no because we have too much other stuff on our plate.
Yeah.
And that's not what he wants. He's going to make a way. He's already in the future making a way for that thing he's calling us to do, but we have to tackle it. We have to identify it. We have to tackle it and do these other things, shuffle things around. I use the word pivot a lot. Like we have to be flexible and pivot. And even the Father has shown us, if you're a Torah keeper like us who came out of Christianity, the Father has shown that he pivots us in the sometimes huge ways. And
Mhm.
we have to be bendy and flexible and willing to do things different, to do what he wants us to do for a season. And so that was really good, Katie. I needed to hear all that. And sometimes I just do things because I'm bored. Like I just get bored so easily. And so again, like what if I take on something new, what's going to suffer? Am I dropping something because I'm bored, well, that's not really mature. So if it's helping people, it's good for my kids. I might be bored, but I need to keep on with it. If that's what he wants me to do, not just because I like starting a
Right.
million things. So that was really, really good, Kayte. And so ladies, so I did get a coaching session from Kayte, and she's gonna help me tackle my to-do list because it's just crazy. And the way I approach my list is just crazy. Is I don't approach it in a super mature way. And so she's helping me with stuff like that. And she can help you with all sorts of topics. You surf her website and you'll see, Kayte, what are some of the things that you can help women with if they need like a sounding board and accountability and stuff like that?
I mean, all sorts of goals and projects. In my own background, I'll just say I've had, I don't know, 7 different careers. It sounds weird. To me, it feels related, but I mean, there was music in there and acting and documentary, you know, filmmaking and like doing copywriting for people and marketing and having these kiddos. And we did a lot of, we like stopped everything and traveled around the world and still like had it be cheaper than where we were living before. And we built a tiny house and moved to the country. And so there are a lot of different like projects in my background that I think that I learned things that can extrapolate out and help other people. But I mean, it could be all sorts of things. Maybe somebody wants to, you know, take on a new, like a side business, or maybe you want to go on a trip or write a book or get healthy, or maybe your home feels stressed out or your mind is not calm. And so you want to calm it and change the way you're approaching your like everyday thing. I think I'll just use a metaphor because there's so many ways that this could apply that sometimes it's hard to like nail down specific scenarios because everyone's so different. But have you ever like on your computer tried to like, or your phone tried to download an app, and your computer or your phone says, we can't run this, you can't open this app because you're like running an old operating system. You need to like upgrade your,
Oh,
like
uh-huh.
it's like iOS. You got to do the upgrade, and then you can like come back and download this app and use this new program. I feel like our lives and our minds are very similar, where you might have like, you might know what you need to do in an area of your life, and you know exactly what you need to do, and you're just not doing it. It's not happening, and you've known it for a long time, and you're just kind of stuck there. And maybe you try to like willpower through, but it's not happening. I think that oftentimes we need to upgrade our operating system, which to me is like our thoughts about things and our mindset, especially about ourselves. And in order to run a new program and to do like these amazing new things that you've never done before, it's like sometimes we're trying to run a new program on an old operating system. It's just not compatible. And so a lot of the work in coaching is just like these great conversations where you can actually shift the way you perceive yourself, hopefully to a way that's closer to how like, our Heavenly Father sees us. And when you change your mind about yourself and your mindset, your actions like change. Um, so much of what we do is based on our identity. Like, think about, if let's say you go to a wedding and like sometimes somebody's the first person on the dance floor, like I'm just like the dancer, I'm the life of the party. You're like, somebody always is in the gym, like I'm a gym rat, or somebody's always, I never am late. I'm just a timely person. Like I respect people's time. We have all these things that we say about ourselves that very much determine how we act. But the things that we say about these ourselves can be changed and upgraded and updated if they're not matching our goals and what we think that God has for us in the coming seasons of our lives. And so I'm really interested in helping people do that.
Well, I think you're going to be really good at it. And the cool thing is, so I just love our community of Taurus sisters that you're a part of. And there's so many gifts within our body of women and talents and skills, and he's bringing more and more women in. And so for us to be able to support you in this new business, but also because you're like-minded, Kayte, it's such a special thing. I mean, we could go to a lot of different coaches in the world, Christian ones, secular ones, all kinds of coaches. And it's not wrong maybe to do that, but to have an opportunity with someone who's so like-minded, because, as Torah keepers, it's everything. It's our whole life. I call it a faith walk because you can't, it's not like you do Torah in this little compartment of your life, but that compartment over there is not Torah. a lot of what we do is what I call common. Well, the Bible calls it common. It's just regular, common, everyday things, but it's always with this whole Bible perspective. And so you have that with us Taurus sisters. And so it's just a really unique, special opportunity. Like I've never ever had a coach or talked to a coach before. And it's probably because I never knew anyone like-minded. Like why it would be hard for me to get advice or accountability or anything like that from someone not like-minded, because
Right, right.
things come up that are Torah-ish, and you want someone who's on the same page as you. Not that you're gonna tell me what to do, but you're coming from life from the same place with the same lenses on, and it's just so precious, really.
It is awesome, and I think that it's so important to know that like the word of God is our final standard, and like and to me like obedience to him is always the next right step, and there're just certain things that are guiding principles for us that wouldn't be for people who aren't
Mhm.
believers. And so that's really important to me. Like that's who I want to work with. I want to work with believers, also expressly because I don't want to see us as like children of the king of the universe is struggling with the same things that are plaguing people who don't know him. I think that we should
Mhm.
be more hopeful, we should be more impactful, we should have more peace and purpose and be productive and fruitful in our lives and have joy. Not just that like we'll be financially more blessed or our houses will be bigger, but we
Mhm.
want there should be evidence in our lives that it's like a wonderful thing to know God. Like people should be able to look at our lives and see that. And when we have challenges, because everyone will, we should be able to weather that in a way that's relying on him and looks different than somebody who just doesn't know him at all. Um, so I'm really passionate about that. Like I wrote my site. I love marketing. I know you're like into marketing too. And
Yeah.
I wrote that I like can't handle a world where the lives of his people are like unselling him, where we're like
Mhm.
bad marketing for him, which might sound harsh, but to me it's just an invitation that if our lives aren't reflecting the goodness of like who our heavenly father is, then we have something to go for, and we can grow into that and into experiencing life more abundant. And
Mhm.
most of that happens like internally, actually. I mean, I think. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, you're exactly right. Um, so I'm going to tell them right now, Katie, also, so Katie and I, we're like starting new things at about the same time, and they complement each other really, really well. So I'm going to tell them this thing, Katie, that not a lot of people know yet, but the retreat, there's a Taurus Sisters retreat coming up May 15th. And after that, Yah willing, at some point after that, I'm launching a new podcast called Boss Sisters. And it's for Taurus sisters who want to be their own boss, alongside under submitting to their husbands, but they want to have a business, or they already have a business like a blog, or they help their husband in their husband's business. So it's a podcast all about businessy stuff, like marketing and
Mm.
SEO and social media marketing and all these things, and how to find a good accountant. And a huge part of the podcast is going to be me bringing on my Taurus sisters, my friends like you, who have done businesses and really excel at different areas of it. So you're going to come on, and then because you have a lot to say specifically on that topic for sure. Like you and I could talk for hours and hours, Katie. So
Okay.
Katie will be on that new podcast as well, which everything just complements each other so well. So then as ladies are following the new Boss Sisters podcast, they're also gonna maybe need help with specifically just them, because I'm going to talk to a general audience with tips and ideas and things. But when a lady needs really unique one-on-one help, you're there for her with your coaching business. So I just love how the Father work, because he's always in the future. He's working it out. We just have to say yes and do things. So it's super cool. And I'm excited about all of that, and to have you on over there too. So
Me too. I have been like, uh, just I just have a big desire for a community like that. So when you were mentioning to me that that's like what you had planned, I was so excited because I thought, man, I do really want to grow and learn more about business and talk to other women, especially, Torah observant women, because we have unique challenges running businesses
mhm,
that adhere to what, we want to be obedient to and stuff. So
mhm.
Yeah, I can't wait for that to open up.
Yep, it's gonna be great. And I don't know everything, which is why I bring all my friends on, because none of us do.
Right.
Um, all right, Katie, thank you so much for joining us again. The sisters are gonna love this. It's gonna help them a lot. And say hi to your kiddos and your hubby for us, okay?
I will. Thank you so much for having me. This was super fun, and I hope
Yep.
that was helpful. And yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. Look in the description link below. I'll post hyperlinks, ladies, so that you can just clicky and go and surf her stuff. So we'll talk again soon, Katie. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Bye.